What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to our video here on Pig City Hockey, and today we're going to be talking, of course, about your Winnipeg Jets. The Winnipeg Jets find themselves first in the NHL. They are without a doubt the best team so far in the NHL this year. They are incredible. They are being led by Vezina Buck, Connor Hellebuck, who is on track to win his third Vezina, his second in a back-to-back situation. Kyle Connor, Mark Scheifele having career years, Gabriel Velarde having career years. Across the board, I think 8 or 9 Jets are on track to have career years this year. It's been an incredible run so far, and a lot of that success is being chalked up to longtime GM Kevin Cheveldayoff. And why wouldn't you? You know, Chevy's been here since the franchise moved back in 2011. He's been the only GM, and in his tenure, he has been known to make some massive moves that have really helped the team in the long run. You know, moving on from Evander Kane way back when in 2015, getting a guy like Tyler Myers and a guy like Drew Stafford, Joel Armia, you know, Brendan Lemieux, trading a guy who was very unhappy here in Jacob Trouba for a dude like Neil Pionk, who is flourishing and becoming a really, really good player in our system, selling extremely high on Andrew Kopp and completely restocking the prospect cabinet with guys like Brad Lambert, Thomas Millix, Ilya Salmelson, the Pierre-Luc Dubois trade, the pinnacle of trades as of late. Moving on from grumpy old Dubois, getting Velarde, you get Iafallo down there for the depth, and you get Kapari as well. Not to mention, you also got a second-round pick that we're able to use to draft Alfonso Frisch, 37th overall, who I actually like in that selection. So, you know, you look at all these amazing moves Chevy has done, you know, over a 15-year span almost, and then what are the bad ones? I would say that a move like Christian Vesalainen, drafting him back in the 2017 draft, the first real bust in franchise history, and that whole situation is hilarious because the only reason we drafted him is because Chris Thorburn was selected by Vegas, and the reason why he was selected by Vegas was so that we could keep Enstrom and Dano, so we moved down 11 spots in that draft. He went on to win a cup nonetheless, but you look at the players the Jets could have got. Robert Thomas, Nick Suzuki, Josh Norris, you know, there's so many good players, as well as I think this trade was terrible as well. Zach Sanford from Ottawa for a 4th-round pick. Guy played 18 games with us. We missed the playoffs. He never even got a goal, and he was out of the league the next year. Like, terrible trade. The Andrew Ladd trade, Marco Dano, we got some usage out of him. That 1st-round pick wasn't terrible, but it's what the Jets did that year in the draft. They were traded that pick away to move up to get Logan Stanley in this draft. And Logan Stanley is the theme of this video because I think that Logan Stanley, and this isn't to point fingers, has to be the worst mistake the franchise had made since its relocation. Logan Stanley is nothing more than a bottom-bearing NHL defenseman. And you look at Jonathan Kovacevic, you look at Declan Chisholm, 2 guys that were drafted and developed right here in the Jets system, who they passed on to get and to keep Logan Stanley and to give him opportunity. Well, at the end of the day, if that's not a mistake at this point in his career, I don't know what is, because in the NHL, hindsight is 20/20, and you can really look and judge each move. You know, Logan Stanley was drafted 18th overall. The Jets were able to get that pick by swapping the 22nd and the 32nd with Philly to go move up and get him in the draft. So the Jets actually moved up in a very rare situation, though the Jets usually don't move up to get players. They move up to get Logan Stanley. That's how confident they are. You know, Logan Stanley comes in after a pretty okay year with Kitchener, but, you know, a lot of questions evolving around his game after that year with Kitchener where he wore the A. He comes into the Moose. He has 2, you know, mediocre years. His first year, he looks like he could be a depth third-pairing defenseman. At best, that's his ceiling, you know, and then his second year, he starts to look like an AHL third-pairing defenseman. But nonetheless, what happens? The NHL, he gets an opportunity. Right after that, makes the NHL in 2020, 2021, and he's never sent back down. And, you know, he's always just been here. Logan Stanley's just been a constant guy on the blue line. And you look at his play, you look at his defensive effort, especially on the penalty kill this year. Look, what is he doing? What are you doing in that situation? You are a 6'7" NHL defenseman screening your goaltender, absolutely doing nothing to clear the crease. Like, the terrible defensive play. And I don't like to single out certain players, but, you know, Logan Stanley has had moments of, you know, good play at times. Lately this year, it has not been that case. Again, in the exact same game, completely loses his man on the penalty kill, and Ottawa's able to come in there and get that goal. And you just can't have stuff like that on a team trying to win a Stanley Cup. Plain and simple, you know? Like, I think Logan Stanley is a, you know, I don't want to give him too much credit for his game, but I think I would call him serviceable at times as an extra defenseman. It's the fact, similar to what the Jets did with Nathan Beaulieu back in the day. They are taking a depth defenseman and putting him out of his league and forcing him to get minutes. And they're just putting so much trust, so much effort into his development. Again, at 26 years old, when this is the best you've seen from him over the last couple of years put together, that's his analytic margins. I don't understand how you could think at this point that that's the guy that's going to go out there and really make things better for this team. You know, the Jets are number 1 in the league, so of course it's very funny for me to be out here criticizing, you know, the fact, oh, Logan Stanley. And it's not me calling the Jets bad, it's not me ripping on Chevy, but at this point, if you can't look at this player and see that even when the Jets are having a fantastic year and he's still this bad defensively, even though he's put up 7 points, you know, what are you going to look at the metrics eventually, right? Because if we're all about draft and development, and we're all about giving players opportunity, drafting, homegrown talent, all that stuff through the draft, you know, a guy like Jonathan Kovacevic can't get any more. He was drafted in the 3rd round back in 2017, 74th overall by the Jets, and he spent a lot of time in our system for good reason. This was a guy that had a lot of, you know, hype behind him and really developed well, I would say, for this team over the years of the Moose. You know, he became a contributor on that Moose team. He was important on that back end, with the Moose were actually a decent team somewhat with our prospects. And, you know, you look at what he's been able to do in the NHL, very, very solid defensive metrics, very consistent defensive metrics, and he actually ranks up there in the top of all defensive defensemen in the NHL. He's had some pretty damn successful careers leaving the Jets, with New Jersey, with the Montreal Canadiens, where he was claimed off of waivers from. And, you know, like I said, this is exactly the type of player that you want to keep in your system and use when the time comes. A Dylan Sandberg type situation, you know, with Josh Morrissey, guys that play on the Moose and Jets develop, we like to keep around, and he was pretty damn good for us. And I always saw him being a depth call-up defenseman, you know, at a certain point in his career, but he kept getting buried on the Moose, and he never really got that opportunity to become consistent on the NHL Jets blue line like Logan Stanley did. The Jets ended up losing him for free to the Habs on waivers. He has a couple good years there, where then he's traded for a value of a 4th round pick, so we lose him for nothing. He goes to the Devils. They trade for him for a 4th round pick, because that's the value they see. You see the stats that he put up here for Winnipeg in itself. So I think that keeping Logan Stanley and giving a guy like that massive amounts of opportunity, because you traded up for him, because of the whole pedigree with him being drafted in the 1st round, it costs you to lose a very solid defensive defenseman. And now you go over and we look at Declan Chisholm. Declan Chisholm's a guy who I have been high on for a very, 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 very long time. Very, very skilled player. You know, this is a guy going back to Drew Stafford, who we were able to move on from. Drew Stafford connects back to that Evander Kane trade tree. We drafted him, and he was incredible for the Manitoba Moose. Like, he really was a staple back there for years on the Moose blue line. He made the All-Star game for the Moose. He had very, very solid metrics across the board as a great two-way defenseman with a lot of offensive upside. And at the end of the day, that's all you can really ask for in a guy that was drafted that later on. And, you know, the Jets end up losing him on waivers after not being able to give him an opportunity to a division rival in the Minnesota Wild, where he is really thriving as a third-pairing defenseman on that club. And again, this isn't me talking about the Jets losing all Hall of Fame talent. But at the end of the day, if you have a guy like Logan Stanley on your club, and that is the guy that you are giving constant amount of minutes and development for over any of these other dudes that are, you know, pretty damn important to the success that your team is having, I just don't get what you have to really worry about. You know, like, Ville Heinola is a guy that needs to play. You know, we drafted Ville Heinola 20th overall back in the 2019 draft. This is a guy that was a first-round pick like Stanley, not far taken off from Stanley, who's thrived at every single metric in the AHL, has thrived in Liga, has thrived in international play, has even really got good looks with the Jets back in his rookie season. Like, this is a guy that has played really damn good hockey at every level of hockey you want to be judged at as an NHL drafted player, and he cannot get an opportunity. Yet Logan Stanley continues to thrive and get opportunities. Now again, this isn't me trying to be like, oh, I like Ville Heinola more, he should play more, blah, 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 blah. This is about facts. You can see the trajectory of Logan Stanley's career. We've all watched it. You've seen the advanced stats. You've seen everything put together over the last few years for him there. It's not working. Whereas Ville Heinola has thrived at every level and has not been given the exact type of opportunities that Logan Stanley has, purely because of size and for the fact that Chevy made that mistake. Chevy hasn't made a lot of mistakes. He really hasn't. I don't think that he views drafting Ville Heinola, as some people are probably going to say in the comment sections of this video, as a mistake either. That being said, you know, when you have a guy like Colin Miller even, who you trade for, and then you sign to a 2-year contract at $3 million, yet you scratch him on occasions, who has nothing but more than solid for this club and playing, what, in 37 games or whatever, he's been pretty damn solid for this club, yet you scratch him for Logan Stanley. These types of decisions baffle me, and I wanted to make a video and lay out the proper timeline because Chevy's made some fantastic moves. We've seen that. He's not really made some stinkers. You know, like, if you're really going to point at losing a 4th round pick for a guy like Stanford as a big stinker for your franchise and your track record, then I would like to think that you've done a pretty good job as a GM. So this isn't me ripping, you know, the Jets as an organization. This isn't me ripping Cheveldayoff. But at the end of the day, what I think comes down to, for the reason why Logan Stanley is still on the Winnipeg Jets more than anything, is the fact that they are not willing to admit that they made a mistake in trading up to get him, in trying to develop Logan Stanley over all of his years. They've given up on Kovacevic. They lost him on waivers. They've lost Chisel on waivers. They've lost years of opportunity to develop Ville Heinola, who's thrived and never gotten that chance. You know, at some point, you have to look in the mirror and be like, okay, what is this guy's ceiling? And I think we've seen it. I genuinely think we have. Whereas when you look at a guy like Kovacevic, a guy like Declan Chisholm, who's playing a third pairing role right now, similar to what their Jets are asking out of Logan Stanley, who are thriving in a better situation, you know, what else can you want? You know, Tage Thompson, Stam Steele, all of these guys were drafted within 40 picks of Logan Stanley's, where the Jets could have never had any of these guys before even trading. Alex DeBrincat, like, come on, Samuel Girard, like, any of these guys the Jets could have drafted with their original picks before making that trade. So, yeah, it's safe to say with hindsight, the Jets lost that trade. Drafting Logan Stanley was the wrong move. That doesn't mean that Chevy's a bad GM. It just means that the writing is on the wall, in my opinion. So make sure to subscribe to stay updated with all things Winnipeg Jets hockey to learn more about the Winnipeg Jets, because they're on fire, but there's lots more to talk about when it comes to this team. Thank you so much for watching. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Check out all the affiliate links down in the description below. Peace, love, and positivity as always. Go Jets, go! And I'll see you guys in the next one.